The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Thank you for joining us and welcome once again to another edition of Easton 300. This is a monthly TV show that talks about all the good things that are happening during the year 2025. I'm Dave Clifton, and with me right now is the vice chair of our celebration, Dale Carrister. And Dale, you and I go way back to early 2023 when this committee was organized and appointed by the Easton Select Board. There were 10 of us, and now we've mushroomed to the fact that there's 100 people in town doing all different kinds of things as a result of this gigantic celebration. I'm Dave Clifton, happy to host the show and happy to have our guest joining us. He certainly is a familiar face, and as a matter of fact, he's been to just about every event because ECAT has been covering all of the 300th anniversary celebration events. Adam Carrero is his name. Adam, what's your title here at ECAT?
So I am the Director of Community Media here at ECAT. But basically between myself, the Executive Director Kim Pincus, and the Director of Productions Joe Taff, the three full-timers, we just kind of do everything here in the studio with just volunteers and part-timers.
We want you and Kim Pincus to know that both Dale and I, on behalf of the Tricentennial Committee, appreciate all the efforts of covering all these events and bringing in cameras, and it's been truly amazing. And we certainly, on behalf of the whole committee, we appreciate what you folks have done. And we'd like to recognize you today. And Dale, I know you have some good things to say about this guy.
Oh, I have a lot of great things to say about this guy and the entire team here at ECAT. You know, and it's not just what they've done for the Tricentennial, but it's what they do for Easton overall. So whether it's community meetings, board meetings of the planning and zoning, conservation, select board, it's a way for all of us to stay connected and stay involved, and also for all of the sports teams that you guys are covering. So yep. I see your Facebook postings about it, and I kind of wonder, how do you have so many people at so many different events going on simultaneously? And we were discussing earlier, I recall actually when the studio first opened, the Easton Lions are going to be having their annual cable TV auction. And at the time there was nothing in the studio, and the equipment was in cardboard boxes, and we were a month before the auction, and I think it was one of the biggest events that the ECAT had to get started with in the first place. And so we've been extraordinarily appreciative of all you've done to promote that community spirit within Easton.
And we're talking about ECAT, Easton Community Access Television, and they certainly have opened up the doors of communication in the town. Not too many communities have local newspapers. They've all gone through the electronic way of getting the word out. And we as a Tricentennial Committee appreciate getting the word out. And I know that you have so many different things to cover, and along comes 2025, and we have a committee that has about one or two events a month to celebrate an anniversary and a community that's rich in history. What would you like to say on behalf of your staff? You and Kim have been there for all the events, and we really appreciate it. But what's your perspective on how you think the celebration is going?
Yeah, so Easton is like a town that has really culture going on with events. Like most towns don't have anything going on, so there's this town meetings and just some school sports. But Easton, besides the Tricentennial, you have the Cultural Council, You have the Easton Lions doing events, and there's other nonprofits in town that have events. So Easton's a very active town with stuff going on. So adding the Tricentennial in the mix is more events to cover, but it is all the events that they've had, that the Tricentennial celebrations had, are events though that the town hasn't seen in many years or haven't seen at all. Like normally the parade is just Memorial Day and Veterans Day, and it's a little small parade just through Main Street. And you guys had a full town celebration coming in, going, I don't know how many miles through it, so many people helping out.
I think there are some people that just finished the parade yesterday.
Yeah.
But the fact is that there was a great sense of community. And that's what I like about ECAT. They're into the town, they're into what's going on. It's not just board meetings, as you mentioned, Dale,
Right.
but there's presence. And you have people and volunteers and young people as well going through specific training so that they can handle the cameras and interviews and all the things that go with running a TV studio. So hats off to you, Adam. You have been at just about every event, and you got to know that the townspeople appreciate it, and certainly the committee does. I mean, my God,
Absolutely.
they've covered all of our meetings. There are people on our committee that never realized that we were going to be meeting over 80 different times. You know, when you join a committee, you don't realize that all these meetings would take place. We met twice a month since we began.
And that's the full board. That's not even the subcommittees that you guys have.
Right, there's been all sorts of other committees that have been meeting for the planning of the parade by way of example, having their own meetings and so forth. And I hope the folks at ECAT have come to realize that the Tricentennial Committee is the best committee in town, because we're the ones who have fresh baked goods, cookies and pastries and so forth. So I'm putting a little challenge out there to the other committees in town. You got to up your game here. Let's get some fresh baked cookies and so forth. It does wonders for the attendance.
And Dale and I want to certainly thank all the committees in town, and certainly all the town department heads. And of course, the Easton Select Board, everybody has jumped on the bandwagon. They've been behind what we're doing. Everybody's participated in one way or another. Their families have participated. And of course, a long time ago, Dale, we selected a theme. And that theme was bringing families and community together. And that's exactly what I was seeing at the recent block party. People were coming together with their families. They were enjoying each other. They were enjoying their neighbors and doing things together. And that was really one of the charges that the Easton Select Board gave us. What do you got to say about that?
Yeah, it was extraordinarily gratifying to attend the block party. This was one of our many signature events that we've had. And you couldn't walk 5 or 10 feet without bumping into somebody that you knew. So it might have been an old friend, an old acquaintance, old neighbor. And you saw a lot of folks making new acquaintances at it. And it was just such a wonderful event.
Especially the location you guys had too, right at the Governor Ames Estate, a property that's well known in Easton.
I think that was one of our goals, is to use as many of the town facilities as possible. Of course, this is a community that's rich in history. Mm-hmm. We've used all the different halls and the playground areas. It's been absolutely super to see people come together. We have two reasons why we're doing this special show. One is to recognize ECAT, Easton Community Access Television, and express our appreciation and let the community know how important you folks have been to providing the public image, to get the word out there and to get people going to these events. And most all of them are free, except for maybe the gala. Everything has been on the house. And Dale, we have to thank all the sponsors.
Yeah, we've been extraordinarily fortunate with the level of support that our community has provided us for these events. We've raised over $440,000, if I recall correctly, to put all these events on and to be able to provide all of them free of charge, with the exception of the gala. That's the only ticketed event that we'll have. That's on December 27th, and you can go on easton300.org to learn more information about that.
Thank the sponsors for their generous contributions. The Bank of Easton, the Northeast Savings Bank, certainly for the kickoff event back on January 4th, we thank the Rhodes family and the SCU Credit Union for stepping up to sponsor that event. The Art and Cultural Festival was sponsored by the Northeastern Savings Bank. We appreciate the efforts of the Bank of Easton back on June 14th. And of course the fireworks, Alex Pyres, we appreciate his generous donation. The Haynes Group here in the town of Easton sponsored the parade. It was a giant parade. I know Dale and I were kidding about it just ended, but that was kind of the feeling about how long it was. The fact is that Doug King Construction sponsored the block party, how popular that was. We got the bonfire coming up, and of course Dorenzo, certainly the leadership of Dave Howe, going to provide the sponsorship for that. The anniversary gala, sponsored by the Avery Lee Williams Foundation. And we're forever grateful to Lee Williams. He made the first contribution. He went to a select board meeting a number of years ago, and he donated $10,000 to the Easton Select Board, and he donated the money for the Easton 300th anniversary. So you talk about wisdom, you talk about vision, thinking about what's going on. And his son, Kevin Williams, has decided to keep his dad's legacy alive by donating $10,000 for a future. And I'm talking about the 350th anniversary. Dale, I know you're going to be at it. And,
You're optimistic, huh?
I'm unable to attend that one, but I may fly over just to see how things are going.
Yes, we'll be looking from up on high, I would imagine. And you may have mentioned, but if you didn't, also the Rhodes family, as I understand, we're also a sponsor for the kickoff event as well.
I did mention you weren't listening, but
well, I got to pay attention a little more.
You just got a haircut, I understand.
I did, yes.
But I wanted to thank our committee. And Dale, you and I have had the opportunity, nobody realized that we'd be spending 3 years with a committee, doing the best we can to pull things together and to come out with what we think would be an ideal, I should say, year-round celebration for people of all ages with all kinds of interesting events and activities. Some major events, we call them signature events, and many partnership events. Now we're going to go through the list, and we're going to be able to show you in the background, thanks to ECAT, Easton Community Access Television, we're going to show you some of the events that have already taken place. So we have some video of those events that'll take us off camera and give you a chance to see some of the crowds and the events that actually took place. How about the Easton Kickoff event? That was back on January 4th. We opened up at Stonehill College. We're going to close at Stonehill College with the gala, but we had a terrific crowd. My understanding is that we had close to 2,500 people, and it was a kind of a cold day with a little bit of rain. Thank God we had the bus transportation to help us out.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal event. You know, we had no idea whether we would have, you know, how many people we would have, and I was kind of thinking to myself, maybe we have 300 or 400 people, some of thereabouts. And you know, special thanks to Amanda Hurley and Anne Marie Taylor for serving as the event coordinators for that event. And I was posted up near the front doors. I think you were greeting folks coming in, and starting at about 5 minutes before 1, it was a flood of people coming, which continued through approximately 4 o'clock that day. It was nonstop. What I particularly enjoyed about it was seeing all of the young families there. There were a lot of young parents with toddler-age children and so forth, and who were coming, and in a sense was kind of having an opportunity to share in the Easton community for the first time. And I think it was a nice introduction of one of the things that makes Easton so special.
That was terrific. And then, of course, on April 19th, we had a partnership event. It took place at Langwater Farm. And of course, we had 3,000 people that showed up. You couldn't find a parking spot in the area, but it brought families together, all kinds of activities for the kids as well as the adults. And that went on from about 10 to about 2 p.m. in the afternoon. What a crowd. And of course, we thank our coordinators who stepped up to the plate to do that.
Yeah, Tom and Karen Hetzel
They were
were taking
terrific.
the lead on that, and they did a phenomenal job working with Langwater Farm, and we were blessed with extraordinary weather that day.
And what a month that was in April. April, we had our Arts and Cultural Festival, and that was headed up by Joan Langren and, of course, Lundgren, but we also had Diane Lasardi helping with that event. They were the co-coordinators. And there's a lot of people in town that are into the arts. It's not just athletic programs and scouting, but there's a lot of people that enjoy the arts. And it took place over at the Oak Ames Memorial Hall. What a facility that is. And
Yeah, and also outside, and the weather didn't cooperate on that day. It was a little bit like monsoon conditions, April 26th, and but the town still turned out in huge numbers. And you may recall they had a food tent with a lot of our local restaurants in town providing food free of charge, and then there was a separate outdoor tent and then an area inside. And you know, for folks, if you're not already aware, we are rich in town in terms of having support by the local artists and artisans and crafts folks, and we were blessed that day. I in turn actually bought a number of photographs that day of Easton-centric things, which I now proudly have on display at home.
And I said to the weatherman, I'm sorry, Mr. Weatherman, we're going to have this celebration regardless of what kind of weather you bring us. And sure enough, we had it. We had a pretty good crowd on hand. And I'll tell you, just to go inside the building and to see the people coming in and out and watching what they did on the street. We had tents put up. And of course, we want to give a special thank to CERT, the Community Emergency Training Group, that they were available in case of an emergency, doing what they could to help out. And they've been at all the events and certainly very much appreciated. Dale, how about the flag ceremony, the picnic, the concert, and of course it ended up with fireworks, spectacular fireworks. And what's your take on that?
Well, what I found particularly moving that day was having had the opportunity to participate in the unveiling of the flags on the high school fields at the Oliver Ames. And it was extraordinarily moving to see the community come out standing with the veterans to pay tribute to their service to our country. And it was a beautiful visual as well, seeing the large flags. And you may recall we also had a flyover from the Massachusetts State Police, which was pretty impressive as well.
3 cheers for the red, white, and blue, the American flag, and hats off to all the veterans. And that was the purpose of the flyover from the Massachusetts State Police, to honor our veterans, not here just in the town. We say not only God bless America, but God bless the town of Easton, Massachusetts. And as we've gone through this celebration this year, we could feel that sense of community.
Right.
People coming together, enjoying each other. And I remember people coming up to me throughout the celebration and saying, Dave, it's been a great year. I'm so happy that I'm bringing my family up here in the town of Easton. What's your take on it?
So that, just the whole ceremony with the flag coming in, because several of those flags have been around the world, from the person from Halifax that brought the flags. And the flyover, it was a different fly. We had also flyover for the parade, but I feel like the one for the flag ceremony was a special pilot, like Top Gun, because not only did he come over multiple times, he kind of came over the football stadium and paused for us, have the siren going off and everything else. So he definitely put on a show for the crowd for the beginning of that.
Yeah, he was coming, I think he was actually buzzing us.
Yeah.
Some of us was a little nervous about
Yep.
how low he was. So I remember remarking, he said, this guy or this woman, they're having a lot of fun up there.
Right.
You know, they were definitely enjoying themselves on the flyover and gave us quite a show.
Well, the word going around the high school complex is that the flyover may not happen.
Yep, because
And then all of a sudden it happened. Not only did he come over once, but he did it 3 times.
Yep.
To make sure that we saw him. The fact is that it was startling to the community that made people think that this is indeed a special community, not just to bring up a family, but the history in the town. You know, talking to Ken Michael, the president of the Historical Society, and a guy like Ed Hands.
A community
he's a guy
treasure.
that
Yep.
He knows the town, he knows the history, and of course the loss of Hazel this year, she was someone that
Hazel Varela.
brought a lot of history to the town. And a giant picnic. And of course the coordinator of the picnic, Madam Zimmerman, wherever you are, we appreciate what you have done. She took the leadership role very seriously, had all kinds of events spread out through all the soccer fields, and she had every space except what was roped off with fun and games for people
For the whole crowd.
of all
Yep.
ages.
What was particularly, I was particularly appreciated was while the weather conditions were not good, it was 50 degrees and had been raining most of the day. We had a great turnout from the town and saw a lot of folks showing up with down jackets and such, you know, but jumping right into those activities and then leading into a spectacular display of fireworks.
And of course, you see the fireworks in the background as we speak. Thank you, ECAT. The fact is that it was not only a terrific fireworks display for the community, who hasn't had fireworks for many years, as you mentioned earlier, Dale, but we had a spectacular, it seemed like 4 finales. There are some people that told me that they started to leave after the first one, and then bingo, they started to rattle off all kinds of fireworks. That was a salute to the town. And we have said many times, Dale and I, happy anniversary, Town of Easton. You have lots of history to be proud of. This was not a competition between other towns having their own celebration. This was Easton being Easton, bringing people to the community. And someone said to me, Dale, I've been going out of town for years for events. And this year, my family stayed in town and we enjoyed fireworks, we enjoyed parades, all the activities that was taking place. And again, thank you, ECAT, for making it possible for those people who couldn't get to the event, they could still see it.
Yeah, and the fireworks were so good. So I went to Bridgewater for July 4th. They had their fireworks and just happened to be next to somebody and just was watching their fireworks and be like, Easton fireworks were better. And my wife just started laughing. She's like, what's the odds of that? I was like, I don't know, but I'm not going to say that they were. They were better than
Not that we're getting
Bridgewater's.
competitive,
We're not getting competitive, but she is right. Easton was better.
And of course, just thinking positively that people in town enjoyed it, whether it be Bridgewater or Sharon or Foxborough, the list goes on and on. They all get a chance to enjoy their community. It's not a competition between who has the best. All I can tell you is we had an active committee of 10 people appointed by the select board, and then we in turn rounded up all the other volunteers, especially the coordinators. Wow.
Well, they've really stepped up to the plate, and it's been particularly enjoyable to how the community has come together and folks who just step up to the plate and join in and took the lead. And, you know, from the perspective of the committee, it was so reassuring to know that the committee, the coordinators had everything under control. With time and time again, we would ask the coordinators, do you need any help where No, we're good. We got it all done. So they really took all of these programs and we're off and running with them.
And folks, take a look at the parade in the background. We had a giant parade back on July 12th. And at that parade, we had good community participation. We had over 1,200 people in the parade, and you can imagine the crowds along Center Street and Main Street that applauded the participants in the parade. And it wasn't just bands. There were a total of 19 floats in that parade. Just keeping track and just trying to line that up. These are things that were going on in the beginning of the parade that the general public was not aware of, but it was difficult lining up this parade with 19 floats trying to turn around. It was truly amazing, but it all came together. And we had a review stand in front of the DPW, and we had a chance to recognize all the folks. We had a sound system at DPW. We had one at the end of the parade thanks to ECAT, and we had a chance to thank them numerous times. And it was interesting to see the scouts, you name it, they were in the parade.
Yeah, and Adam, I'd be interested to hear from ECAT's perspective, because I can only imagine the challenging logistics of covering an event like that. Can you speak a little bit about like how you guys tackled that to, provide a lasting, memoir of such a wonderful day?
So before the parade happened, I knew we taped the 275th parade anniversary. So I found the footage of that and just kind of saw that they just had one camera on the side. Actually, they had two different angles, but they had two cameras just watching the parade go by. One was at the review stand. So me and a couple of the guys like, all right, what can we do different? How can we make it up? And said, let's try to do almost like a Macy's Day Parade or what they do down in Plymouth for Thanksgiving. And so we had a set up, and we had Dan Anderson and Brian Hoffman right on the side. Gave them headsets. They had a little monitor so they can see the parade coming down the street. So we had a camera on them, and they were able to talk about everybody coming through. And we had two cameras on one side and another camera on another side, and just switching it, and it was almost like a Macy's Day Parade. And then we set up for the speakers, and people can hear what was going on close by.
Fabulous to see the fire departments from Easton and other towns leading the parade. And of course, antique cars, some of the oldest and best that you could have in a parade. There were kids in the parade, there were adults, there were families.
We had the Shriners.
The Shriners joined us, and how about those Clydesdales? They were absolutely terrific. What a thrill it was to see how many different versions of a parade. We had a total of 6 divisions, including the fire department. Dale was in the committee float, and
you were the Grand Marshal.
I had the honor and privilege of doing that. And it was amazing to hear all the people saying thank you. They really appreciate it. And they hadn't seen anything yet because I was in the first division. But it was a good-sized parade. It had a sense of community. And I had a chance at the very end of the parade on microphone to thank all the people that joined us. And they didn't know exactly where I was. They could hear the sound. And thank you for joining us here in a very special community, Easton, Massachusetts. Anything else you want to say?
Well, I had a different vantage point on it because I was on the Tricentennial Committee float, which was the last float in the last division. And I had expected that by the time we got around to things would have been, okay, we've seen this, we're done, we're all, that kind of thing. But quite the contrary, it was as if people did not want the parade to end. And we had so many folks coming up and thanking us for the work that the committee and all the coordinators have been doing. And I actually was watching ECAT just so I could actually see the parade as we were waiting to get started. Yep. So that's how I took in a lot of the parade, and I certainly took advantage of watching it afterwards as well. So it was a phenomenal event. And then most recently we had the block party. And we were blessed with another day of good weather as we had been for the parade. It was a warm day, and the folks in town came out in hordes.
And of course, the biggest crowd was between the hours of 12 noon to 4 p.m. The workers, the volunteers, they worked from 9 in the morning until 6 in the evening because of all the events and activities and everything from cleanup to what have you, and getting things back to where they belong. And then we opened up the capsule. What do you got to say about that?
Yeah, well, that was special. So the time capsule, it had been scheduled. This was to be opened in the presence of the Historical Society and the Select Board, and this was the time capsule from the 250th. So from 1975, and this had been graciously kept by the Bank of Easton and their bank vault for all these years. And Ken Michael from the Historical Society took the lead in the opening of the time capsule, and what was particularly enjoyable was his engagement of a lot of the kids who were there to actually pick items out. And Dave, as I'm sure you saw, we were standing behind from where the opening was taking place, and to see the look of excitement on the kids' faces as they were raising hands in the hope of being picked to pick out the next item, and which was also really nice, was just to see how excited the kids were to share in something about, you know, a historical activity. And we're certainly going to have a lot of fun and some difficult decisions to make in terms of deciding what goes into the time capsule from the 300th anniversary.
I wanted to go back for a minute to the parade. I wanted to thank not only the Haynes Group, but I also wanted to thank Vertec. They financed the cost of the Shriners that joined us in the parade. That was a donation that they wanted to contribute.
We should also thank you, the coordinators, for that event. So Corey Ahonen, who took the lead in coordinating, and Corey had previously been the coordinator for a number of the veterans parades and Memorial Day parades we had in town. We were fortunate to have him as a veteran service agent here in Easton, and now he's working for the Commonwealth in a similar capacity. And he was supported by a very strong committee, including your wife, Linda, and Al Provost, and Craig LePro, and many others.
Well, the list goes on. As a matter of fact, it was kind of a fun meeting. They met once or twice a month as they got close to parade time, but they had fun at their meetings.
They didn't have cookies, though, did they? No pastries?
They did not have cookies, but we did have some refreshments.
Okay, good.
You would have been there, Dale.
If they had cookies, I would have been there for those meetings, yes.
And of course, we want to thank Doug King Construction. Doug has not just helped us out with this block party, but he's always there to help people out in the community. And we thank you, Doug, for what you have done over the years, and especially during our 300th anniversary year. I would like to give a special shout out and thank you on behalf of our committee, Dale, to the Easton Select Board. Certainly Dottie Fulgenetti is the chair, and of course Craig Barger, he has always been there for us. He is the Select Board's appointee to our committee. We also thank Mark Lamb, who spent some time with us at committee meetings, Jennifer Stacy, and of course James Stebbins. They have been absolutely terrific in terms of supporting our celebration. Connor Reed, the town administrator, and working with us on a monthly basis has been Sean Dugan, the assistant town administrator.
Yeah, and it's not only what they've all done to help us with the events, but what we have seen from all of these events is an incredible amount of enthusiasm for folks to share in what makes Easton special, and there's a reason, many reasons for that, but one of those reasons is that we've been in good hands with Connor and Sean and Dottie and the entire select board, and I think that it was reflected in how people feel about this town, and we've been extraordinarily fortunate to have that, and I think that's in part why we've had such a great turnout for the different events.
And I've seen State Rep Bridget Pluff, who has been at a lot of the events. And we thank the efforts of State Senator William Driscoll Jr. and Representative Lisa. She has been absolutely terrific. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest things that you and I have talked about is being on a committee like this, planning a year-round celebration. We get to meet new people in town, and it's gratifying to see how something like this mushrooms and becomes bigger than what we ever expected. Let's talk about some upcoming events. You got a car show with the Lions Club. That's a partnership event, and that's coming up this
Sunday, September 14th. I believe the hours are from 9 until 2 p.m. It's at the Southeastern Regional. The Lions had their first ever car show last year. They did that up in the Shaw's parking lot, and they had an overflow of cars who were participating. These are classic and antique cars, and they're going to be having another show on this Sunday, which will be their second, and they'll have a little more room over at the Regional. It's free for spectators. It's just $10 per entry for a car. We encourage the cars to get there early so that you make sure you get a spot, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
And one of the things that Dale and I want to make sure we do as the chair and vice chair of the celebration committee is to thank the committee that we've been working with for the past 3 years. And everybody has a job, and everybody followed through, and even the coordinators, they did things above and beyond the call of duty. And that's why all the events come out the way they have. We've had terrific crowds. We have people who have really been into it. And how about Courtney Pupkin on her fundraising events?
Well, none of this would have happened without the extraordinary fundraising efforts from Courtney and the support of the Easton business community, and for the folks who participated in purchasing a pole banner or otherwise, provided some support for the events. And that's why we've been able to have so many phenomenal events at no charge to the public. And again, the only exception being for the gala event taking place on December 27th.
You know who else has been busy is Treasurer Jeanette Camara. She, of course, is the treasurer at the Bank of Easton. We're fortunate enough to have her on the committee. But to run a celebration like this on a year-round basis, it takes a lot of paperwork, invoices, deposits, all the stuff that goes with it to make sure we're doing everything the appropriate way. She's a good person for that, I'll tell you.
She is.
We thank her so much. We'd also like to thank two people who have been our honorary co-chairs. And we're talking about a community. I don't think there's a building, the historic buildings that don't have the name Ames on it. But we're fortunate enough to have Fred Ames and, of course, William B. Ames that have been active members of our committee. And they have carried the flow of the Ames family being an important part of this town, which we call Shoveltown.
Yeah, and they've left, the family's had an extraordinary legacy. We had the benefit of seeing from the Easton Lions Celebration of Easton's History event in May. There was a presentation by Bill Ames that was extraordinarily interesting in detailing the full extent of the Ames legacy in Easton. So we're very thankful for them.
And working closely with the Ames family, let's thank Joan Lundgren. She's a good leader, and people know her from all the concerts during the summer and fall that take place over at the Oak Ames Memorial Hall. We thank Rosalind Miller. We thank certainly Craig Badger, Mike Good, Diane Lasati, secretary. These are people who met for 3 years, folks. And it's not over yet. We're not finished until we have our final event, which is on December 27th. That's going to be the gala. It's going to be at Stonehill College at the Sally Blair Ames Sports Complex. Folks, save that date. It's $100 per person. And when we get to the middle of October, I think the date is October 15th, the price will go up to $125. So get your tickets early. They will be available, tickets up to November 30th. And of course, that'll be the final event of our Easton 300th anniversary. It's going to be lots of people. It's going to be cocktail attire. And Father John, the president of Stonehill College, will give some opening remarks. And of course, we thank the Avery Lee Williams Foundation for sponsoring this. And anything you'd like to say about the gala? I know you're getting your tux ready.
My colonial tux, yes. So mine might be a little more older than some, but it's going to be another phenomenal event. And folks can check out and get more information about how to get tickets at easton300.org. And you'll see that there's a mechanism there for filling out a form to send in. There'll be follow-up to consummate the purchase. And I think a lot of folks are getting tables for their neighborhoods. What a fun thing to do together. So we encourage folks, get some of your neighbors and friends together, get a table, and really have a fun night together. And in addition to having, as I understand, some tribute to Lee Williams as part of the event, there will also be a presentation put on by Chris Ventresco, who's been one of the official photographers for all of our events. So it'll be a nice retrospective on what a phenomenal year that we've had together. So it's really going to be an exciting night. We're expecting as many as 500 to 600 people. So we encourage folks to get your tickets. Don't wait. Don't want to be left out, and it should be a lot of fun.
I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't have more people that attended this final event. It's a chance for all of us to reminisce a little bit on how the year 2025 has gone. I think you're going to find people thinking about this already as we enter the final quarter of our year-long celebration. With the bonfire, bringing families, the bonfire is going to be a lot different than a block party. We're going to have a huge bonfire, according to the fire chief. And of course, all the safety precautions will be going into effect. It's a chance to come together to enjoy music, but it's also a chance to sit with your family, bring your chairs, bring your blankets, and look at the fire and just think about how this community has come together. Some final comments you'd like to make, Dale?
Well, I'd be interested in hearing any further from Adam about the perspective. You may be glad that the Tricentennial activity is coming to an end. It might lighten the workload a little bit.
A little about that. But yeah, I know we're wrapping up. Also, if anybody wants to relive the events or wants to watch stuff that you missed, everything is on ECAT's website and YouTube page. So if you go to YouTube and search Easton Cat TV under community events, you'll get all the Tricentennial events. And if you want to watch Dave here talk during the Tricentennial committee meetings, we'll have all the meetings on there too. But it gives people the opportunity to relive the events. And I'll do a shameless plug for ECAT now. If you also go to our website, eastoncat.org, you can find the videos, but feel free to look and donate to ECAT because we're a nonprofit TV station, so anything helps. So feel free to do that too, to continue ECAT to help out the community.
And we as a community need to stand with ECAT and provide them the support because you guys are there with the town for all of the different events. So the folks, when you're out there and you see ECAT filming at your son or daughter's sporting event, or you're watching one of the community boards events in town, or watching one of the Tricentennial events, that all of this is available to you to watch because of what ECAT does. So we all need to be there and stand with you and support you.
I second your motion, Dale. No doubt about it. They've been an impact group that has made a difference here in the Easton community. Let me kind of wrap this up. It's an opportunity for us to share this video with some folks who have requested it, not just in town, but out of town, as they plan and prepare for their celebration. They really wanted to hear about what we've done here in the town of Easton. And one of the things that I've said many times to our committee is we can be very grateful for the opportunity to participate in putting a program together that would bring the community together, that would get families doing things together. How important a family is. A family is what makes up a community. And I know that there are folks in town that enjoyed the celebration. And we try to emphasize the fact that it's so important. And I say that all the time to young people. Don't be afraid to give back to your town or city. And it's a good way of saying thank you. Saying thank you for the opportunity that you have to grow up in a very special community where you can get a good education, you can live in a positive way. And yes, it is true, the world's gotten a little crazy, but we have to continue to be positive and to do things in our community. We hope that when the year celebration comes to an end, that in future years, this community will do the best they can to think about the importance of family, doing things together, and to continue. We've already heard many people want some of these events to come back and to continue. And that's going to be a decision that will be made at a later date, but I think that's going to happen. Final comment, Dale?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that I've really enjoyed the community coming together. And you go to any of these events and you're connecting with folks, you're making new friends, and the hope is that we'll be able to carry that on as we move forward, that we won't forget that community feel, and we'll continue to bring families and community together as we move through 2026 and beyond.
And to wrap it up, I say this program has been a production of ECAT, Easton Community Access Television. And as I say to many people who volunteer their time, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of helping others. Just like they do at the Lions Club, they step up and do what they can to help others. Folks, thank you for joining us in a wrap-up of what's gone on so far. See you at the gala and, of course, the bonfire. Thank you.